Well, the time has come to finally review it. This is the DAN A4 SFX, the ultimate smallest gaming case in the world. This is a special case because its goal was to seek the ultimate layout in becoming the smallest gaming case that accepts a full-length dual-slot video card and standardize off-the-shelf components like a micro ATX motherboard, SFX power supply, etc. Basically, it took the doctrine of less is more to a whole new level. All great projects have at least an equal great story behind them. This is a one-man project with a vision for the perfect small form factor case. Automatically, this means that it will become a niche product like all others that push the envelope. This is for those who want a highly portable system and want maximum quality as well, because pride of ownership is a very romantic factor for some. Daniel Hansen shared his idea on forums like Computer Base, Hardware Looks and Hard Forum all the way back from 2013. 3 years later, with the help of the Kickstarter campaign, the vision came to life. Because of so much interest and support, it reached its minimum goal in just a few hours. When the campaign ended, it gathered almost 40,000 euros. The first production batch consists of almost 2,000 pieces, which will go to the backers. By the summer of this year, 2017, it will go into mass production. Currently, at the time of this review, there are 2 confirmed options available: overclockers from UK and Case King from Germany. Okay, with that big intro out of the way, let's see why is this so damn special. We know it's really tiny. How tiny, do you ask? Exactly 7.25 liters. That's it. Even the NCase M1 has double the volume, which was the smallest case until the A4 came out. Another example, a cube case like the Thermaltake Core V1 Micro ATX has about 22 liters, or the popular Bitfinex Prodigy M hovers around 27 liters. If you take a look at the dimensions, you will realize it's smaller than a shoebox. If you want more size references and perspective, I have a build vlog as well where I compare to most case formats. Trust me, it's worth it. I'll post the link down in the description below. How was this accomplished, you ask? Well, the magic comes from the fact that Daniel has used a dual chamber design, thus making the motherboard and video card parallel, not perpendicular like in old cases. Pun intended. The trick is that they are connected via PCI-E riser card extension, as you can see in this animation. Another great advantage besides the new packaging layout is that the cooling is separate from one chamber to another, so no more heat interferences. And as you'll see later in the review, the temperatures are really good for a case that has no extra fans. Now let's do a walk around. On the front we have just one USB port and the power button. The minimalist approach is omnipresent. Right off the bat, the build quality stands out. The case is subcontracted to Li, thus the end result is stunning. Premium 1.5mm thick brushed anodized aluminum is used. The tolerances are perfect and everything is built to last. If you remember the previous animation, the case has 2 side panels and 1 top section. Everything mentioned is perforated for cooling advantages. We discovered that the feet are pretty slippery on glass tables, so do take notice of that. Now let's talk about the limits of the case. It accepts standard mITX motherboards, SFX power supplies, or even the SFX-L format, the longer ones. But with this SFX-L you will sacrifice 1 drive of the possible 3. Now moving to the GPU section, which is very interesting. Don't let the small footprint scare you. I kid you not, this case has a better GPU clearance than most bigger cases. We're talking about 295mm in length without the back bracket. Daniel wanted to be sure of the measurements because each manufacturer measures things differently. Now regarding height, we have 144mm and the case even accepts a 2.5 wide slot video card. The only thing you need to worry about is the CPU cooling and the RAM heat spreaders, but there are plenty of options available, as Daniel has pointed out on his website. We will talk more on this later. Test drive time. We also made an in-depth build vlog as a quick guide how to build in it. While you are at it, head over to our main website if you fancy the written version of this case. Moving on, so this is what we managed to cram inside. This is an i7-4790K, an ASUS Impact 7 Maximus motherboard, 16 gigs of crucial DDR3 RAM with LEDs of course, a Corsair SFX 600 watts power supply, and an MSI GTX 980 Ti. For storage we used an M2 SSD from Samsung, the 950 Pro, for maximum elegance, so no more extra SATA cables. Speaking of storage, this is the removable tray on the bottom, which can handle two 2.5-inch drives. And there is one more space on the front of the case. Both slim 7mm and thick 9.5mm drives are accepted. Now, before we close the case, I want to point out the fact that the first series of this will have a unique production number. We got 404. Luckily, no errors were found with it. On a quick note, the side panels have additional screws besides the pushpin clips. We discovered that the pushpins are so good that you can skip the screws altogether. First up, let's test the video card. We notice no negative influence when compared to a full tower case with plenty of airflow from extra case fans. The GPU in stock settings, as you can see, are within very acceptable levels. You can even overclock your GPU with ease and don't have to worry about it ever overheating. Thus, your GPU cooling capability is directly proportional to your hardware that you employ. The same goes for the noise output. As you can see, we also tested with an NVIDIA reference cooling, a GTX 1080 Founders Edition, to complement our testing. Moving to the other room. Now this is where it gets tricky. Because the CPU cooler height must be under 48mm, it seemed that choosing the Cryorig C7, which has 47mm, would be the perfect candidate. But when used with the side panel, that 1mm of clearance creates turbulences. This is not a case's fault per se, but something to consider. Another great option is the Noctua L9i at only 37mm in height, thus it will eliminate that problem altogether. As we speak, Daniel, being a perfectionist, won't let this go unnoticed and decided to make his own cooling. Yeah, that's right, he will do another crowdfunder campaign to make the perfect cooling for his case, for those who want to keep an i7 under control or even overclock it and not to have to worry about temperatures or a noise screaming Ferrari. Check out the topic of his project, I will put everything in the description. Back to the tests. As per our build, the C7 can't keep our i7 under control, not even in stock form, and barely get this if we underclocked it to 1.05 volts, which is the minimum that our motherboard allows it that low. And these are the temperatures and noise outputs for now. So we recommend an i7 non-K for this case, which has a TDP of 65 watts or an i5. Combine that with the Noctua L9i until Dan releases that knight in shining armor of a cooler. So there you have it, guys. The A4 is the ultimate expression for how small a case can be given the current standards for components. The build quality is excellent and the layout is what makes the case possible. Performance-wise, we saw it can handle enthusiast-grade components, at least for the GPU side. And with some future coolers, it will overcome the CPU problem over 65 watts of TDP. Being a niche product, it is expensive, over 250 euros, 250 pounds, but in our opinion, if the high price tag is the only compromise because you know exactly what you want and accept it as is, we think it's worth it. Please let me know in the comments what you think about the case, and please subscribe because we have so much to talk about. Until then, this is Alex and catch you on the flip side.